Tonight's episode of America's Hometown Horror is brought to you by our friends at Fangoria magazine. That's right, the first name in fright since 1979 is now an affiliate of America's Hometown Horror. And because of that, we can now offer you an exclusive 20% discount on any first-time magazine subscription or merchandise purchase by heading over to shop.fangoria.com and using the code HometownHorrorPod at checkout. That's shop.fangoria.com/HometownHorrorPod, or just use the code HometownHorrorPod at checkout for that exclusive discount on anything from Fangoria. Tonight's episode of America's Hometown Horror is also brought to you by our friends at Horror Facts Magazine. Never heard of Horror Facts Magazine? Well, if you're a horror fan, they're a name that you absolutely should know. You can find them over at horrorfacts.com, and they're a great resource for all things horror, including news, reviews, editorials, and lots of other horror podcasts, not only limited to, but including America's Hometown Horror. So head on over to horrorfacts.com and check them out. Now, let's get on with the show. All right, let's rock and roll. Hello, good evening, and welcome into another episode of America's Hometown Horror Podcast. My name is Mike, and I'll be hosting your journey into the deep Amazons this evening as we discuss a film. But first and foremost, why don't we get a few social media and online things out of the way first? Here's where you can find us on those platforms. First place is our website, ahhpod.com. That's AHHPOD.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram. Just search for America's Hometown Horror, and you'll find us. You can also email us at hometownhorrorpodcast@gmail.com if you feel so inclined. And we would encourage you to call us and leave us a voicemail at 508-927-1267. That's 508-927-1267 to have your voice heard on America's Hometown Horror. And of course, the most important thing you can do for our show is to give us a like, a subscribe, and a review. Helps us grow, helps us get out there to more horror fans just like yourself. So leave us a review, preferably a 5-star review if you think we do a 5-star job. And last but certainly not least, thanks as always to our friend Shaun, who always does a bang-up job making us sound great and handles all of our audio and music production. And if you have an audio podcast that you're looking to take to the next level in terms of audio production, get in touch with us. We'll put you in touch with Shaun and get you sounding as good as we do, because I think we sound pretty goddamn good. If I do say so myself, thank you as always to Shaun. That's what I got, guys. All right, this has been an episode of America's Hometown Horror. Thanks so much for checking in with us. Have a good night. Bye. Not just kidding. Gentlemen, it's time to introduce my fellow co-hosts. I'm joined as always by Andrew and Matthew. Gentlemen, good evening.
The fuck's up?
What's up, boy?
How y'all doing?
Doing good. Sweating balls, but doing good.
I know.
Yeah.
Fucking steamy rave on out here the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Let's get our weather talk out of the way to break the ice here. We usually do. Yeah, it's been fun.
Usually my fault. I feel like I always bring up the weather.
Always bring up the weather. It's okay.
I don't know what that's like. I don't know. That's just my move, my go-to.
Not hating. Just saying.
I had to postpone mowing my lawn to tomorrow.
Yeah. Too hot for that shit.
A little bit.
I have to say, Matt, as a semi-recent homeowner, right, within the last year for you?
Mm-hmm. Since November.
I do really appreciate your Snapchats that you send just when you're freshly mowed lawn and then you staring at and just nodding in appreciation. They crack me up every fucking
It's the dad move, dude.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Look upon my kingdom of mowed lawns.
It always feels good. It's a daunting task, but once it's done, you're like so stoked.
Oh, I honestly, there's nothing that I enjoy more than mowing my own lawn. I love it.
I have a tractor in my shed that me and my buddy are going to try to restore and get it working. That'll make my life a little easier.
Oh, for sure.
Then you can put like a little plow on the front too for your driveway. Just fucking clear that shit out.
I didn't think about that, dude. That'd be sweet. The driveway is not too bad to shovel, but if it was like a lot of kind of heavy snow, then yeah, that'd be
but also if you didn't have to shovel it and you could just use a little plow on it, that would be even better.
Yeah, it'd look like a fucking little idiot.
Just make sure you wear one of those like dinosaur fucking costumes.
That's a good idea too. Yeah. Just dress like one of the dudes from Tales.
You got a big lawn back there, by the way.
Yeah, it's a large backyard.
Yeah, that's got to be
I got
tough.
drunk in the
You
trunk.
got a nice lawn there, bud. It's pretty
Yeah,
big too.
Very
oh
nice.
boy,
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Mike's
Yeah,
got
you
a
guys
nice
got to come
deck.
over and eat some cheeseburgers and some
I would love
smoked
to
meat.
at some point. I still have not seen your humble abode as of this moment, so we should definitely come over there, all of us together,
I would
and
be down for that.
hang out at your house, and then go to the lovely Mike's Restaurant in Fairhaven, the town of your home, and that would be a great day for me. I would love it.
I mean, you said cheeseburger, so we don't need to go to Mike's.
Oh well, cheeseburger. That's actually true. Yeah,
Well, I'll be
cheeseburgers at
smoking.
Matt's, and then
Randy's gonna be there. Gonna eat some cheeseburgers.
prime rib and bar pizzas at Mike's in Fairhaven.
Oh, put some
Yeah, the
cheeseburgers
bar
on the bar
pizza's
pizza.
Cheeseburgers on the bar pizza.
Make a big
Yep.
pizza burger. Oh,
A big pizza burger. That sounds fucking good. Oh my goodness.
it's like a
Easy
big
boys.
pie.
I want to
Just cut
die.
it into pieces.
Gentlemen, so we're coming off a very fun episode last week where we had Tony from Spooktacular. I say Spooktacular in the loosest sense of the word. 'Cause it sounds like, based on what he was saying on there, it's they've had some hiccups. I'm glad to hear that it is still moving forward. Sounds like he is moving on to future endeavors, and I'm very excited to hear his new podcast. You guys have a good time talking with Tony last week.
Yeah, that was
In a Violent
great.
Nature.
I was listening back today and I was enjoying it very much.
Yeah,
Tony's got such a soothing voice. I love talking to him.
dude.
he really does.
It's one of the most soothing voices out there. He's like David Allen Boucher.
Yeah.
Just so soothing.
Yeah, and it's funny because so the day after the podcast, I texted him and I was like, "Hey, buddy, like really appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much for taking the time. I know you have a million things going on, his work and being a dad. So anytime he can join us is great. But he actually like had the I think he was being sarcastic, but I don't know if he was. So I hope I wasn't too crass. And I was like, fucking dude, come on, are you kidding
I think
me?
he's just a polite guy.
Yeah, he is. He's just a polite guy, a very nice guy. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. Have our feelings on In a Violent Nature changed at all? Is it pretty much the same? We think.
Yeah. I'm right where I was.
Yeah,
Yep.
about the same.
Yep.
About the same.
No change.
Yeah. So if you haven't given it a listen yet, check back to last week's episode and listen to us talk about In a Violent Nature once you see the movie. We had a great time talking with Tony. Gave a lot of really insightful thoughts on the movie, as did the rest of us. And it was great to hear some updates on Spooktacular, the movie, and also, as I mentioned, his new podcast project that he's working on very hard. And I'm excited for him. He's a great guy. He does great work, and I'm happy to see that his work on the Spooktacular documentary is being parlayed into some new stuff for his new second career. I love it. Great guy. Support him in any way you can. Follow Spooktacular the movie on social media and anywhere else that they are. So, anywho, gentlemen, I was going to skip the news tonight and just dive right into the movie because I don't know when this is going to come out. I don't know if the news would be relevant. So I figured we could maybe do a couple of news things before long legs if there's any relevant news items to talk about. You guys cool with that?
Yeah. Do we have
What do we want to do in
brief
this?
watch list?
Yeah. Watch
yeah.
list,
Why don't we go old school here?
Got a
Why
bit.
don't we do some watch lists? So who'd like to go first? Andrew, you want to go?
Matt sounded ready.
Matt's not ready. Why don't we go with
You know
Matthew?
what, Andrew? Why don't you go if you don't mind? That way I can just recap a couple of things I did watch.
All right. So we haven't done. So what do we like last week? Watch
Yeah,
list?
sure.
Okay.
I know you've watched a lot.
I've actually watched a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in the last week.
And one of the movies that you did watch, I can actually talk about because I've seen it. So go ahead.
So since we saw In a Violent Nature, I watched Stop Motion, which Matt, I know you saw that.
Yep.
Talk about that movie. That's been getting a lot of praise.
That's
this
sneaky
year.
good movie. That's right up my alley. It's
Mhm.
really weird. It's really hard to like. Basically, it's the daughter of a woman who is famous for being like she's like the Steven Spielberg of like stop motion films. That's what I get out of it. And her mother, the main character's mother, is making her final little film, and she's helping her do it because she has arthritis, so she can't use her hands. And the whole time, basically, the daughter, she's very good at stop motion too. She has a lot of good ideas, but she's just so caught up in helping her mother that she doesn't worry about herself. And so basically, essentially she starts to like her mother gets ill, and then you can see her just getting deeper and deeper into this like
Her mom's
I
also
don't know
very
what-
mean.
her mom's a bitch. Yeah,
Yeah.
awful human being.
Pause real quick. This sounds a lot like the setup for Hereditary.
You can see some parallels for sure.
Yeah, not saying it's a similar movie because I haven't seen it yet. I'm the one of the three that hasn't seen it.
It's very psychological thriller. It's very done. It's very creepy. It's probably if the year were to end today, it would be definitely in my top 3 from what I've seen so far.
I don't know if top 3 for me, but the stop motion stuff that's in it is like nightmare fuel.
Oh yeah,
for sure. It's like a Tool music video if it was like directed by like fucking Ari Aster.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty creepy.
Matt, you liked it too?
Yeah, no, it is the third act goes full blown horror. It gets like crazy violent.
Before we go back to Andrew's watch list, did you guys see Mad God that was on Shudder?
I haven't seen that. Like,
it's fucking really weird and cool.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot.
I think it took 20 years for that dude to make.
Yeah, he's been working on a lot of stuff, I guess, but he's been in the background working on stuff for a long time, and that was like his passion project. I remember hearing about that, so pretty cool. Anyway, Andrew, continue.
I also watched Loop Track, which was a new actually, this was end of 2023, like December, Australian film, which I didn't even hear about. I just randomly popped upon it, and it's about this like really shy dude, like really awkward, definitely doesn't get along well with other humans. Decides to go on a hike on some trail. Animals. I think it's actually in New Zealand. I think he's in New Zealand.
So he's a Kiwi.
He's a Kiwi, yeah, definitely. It was definitely New Zealand. Okay. He's like wearing like cardigans and like regular shoes, and he's like hiking up like this really tough trail, and he's like not even like dressed appropriately. It's really awkward. And he like meets these fellow hikers along the way, and this stuff happens, and you're trying to decide if he's crazy or not, and like what's going on. Like it's the last 20 minutes of this movie are just wild, and it's like wildly it's wildly good, but it's also wildly bad, but in like a B movie way. So it's almost like it's not. I don't even know what I think about this movie, to be honest. I think I found it plenty entertaining. Drags on a bit.
You told me when you watched this that you thought that I would like it.
I think that you might like the end of this movie.
Okay.
Take with that what you will. It was fine. It was just like, it just also the very ending. I didn't like.
Okay.
And then I watched Monolith. That was another Australian horror movie.
Yeah, Monolith. Yep.
Actually, I think it was released in 2022, but technically 2024 in the US.
Yes.
That's what I got.
Yep.
I heard that was pretty cool.
I liked it. Pretty awesome that it takes place in one location with one actor. It's pretty much it, other than the people that she like talks to on the phone.
Right.
And like recordings. It's the same location, and it's one. She does a fantastic job. She was in Evil Dead Rise.
Yes.
What was her name again?
I'll look it up.
Lily Sullivan.
Sorry, Shauna. Lily Sullivan. That's correct.
She's fantastic. It's basically like a journalist who's had some. She's almost was canceled for something she did.
Oh, not even a journalist. She's a podcaster.
Well, now but she was a journalist, and she got canceled for journalism because she fucked up. Now she's doing some podcast, Beyond Belief, I think. And the story of it is fucking phenomenal. Like this is like a radio rental.
Yeah.
Like
it does some serious world building within its short runtime. That's for sure.
It's very good. Is it horror? Yes. It's the slowest of slow burns you could possibly get.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I really liked it. It's just, it's one of those movies that's like, it's like skin right. It's you either like it or you won't like this movie.
Yeah. I'll chime in here because this is the one movie I think that you are going to talk about that I have seen. Have you seen this yet, Matt?
Loop Track?
Monolith.
Oh, no, I haven't.
So I liked it. I wish I liked it more. It was all right.
A lot of potential.
Yeah. A lot of potential. Really cool story. Really creepy story. I just like the one thing I'll say to go off Andrews here, because see this movie, it's definitely cool. It's worth watching. The way the horror world treats podcasters is fucking outrageous. Between this movie, I'm also thinking about the English podcasters in Halloween, the remake, with like the Halloween Legacy sequel. Oh my God. I feel like the horror world has such disdain for podcasters. And I feel
I think that what they can do is that they're doing that because most people can like visualize. Oh, I listen to this podcast, or I like this, or you know what I mean. Like,
I know it's just funny.
So they're like, hey, this is like the little get for the fans.
I'm struggling to think of a movie where a podcaster is portrayed positively in a horror movie. But anyway, just an interesting observation. But Monolith was cool. I liked it. I wish I liked it more. But anyway, Andrew, continue.
I don't want to give too much away because it's very story driven. It's very plot driven. Obviously, there's minimal. I mean, the end of the movie it's okay. I would just say watch it. It's definitely worth a watch. It's one of those movies that I feel like I need to watch again because I'm not too sure how much I actually liked it. I'll watch it again in December when I'm like trying to finalize, because this could sneak its way in. This is like right now riding the fence where I could see this being like 10 or 11 or 9, like right in that area. For
this is going to be one of those years, I think, where it's going to be really hard to narrow down 10. I have a feeling. I just in my gut, I feel it.
So you
Which
want?
is great.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's good. That's what you want. I like having a hard. Every time I watch a movie, I put it on I have like a list on my letterbox that I rank them all, like they're already being ranked as I'm watching them.
I do the same thing. Yeah, I track everything on Letterboxd too. It's a very useful. So it's one of the most useful social media apps, I think. Even though I think you two are the only people that I know that actually use it.
I've been using it since you guys recommended it just to keep track of what I'm watching.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it's very hard to remember.
Yeah.
So I have another one. I watched a movie called Snake Eater. You guys ever heard of that?
Never heard of it.
Nope.
So it's really interesting. It's kind of like a parable. I would say it's similar, but not the same. Like completely different than the house that Jack built. Like just like that kind of like, just general theme. It's not even close to the same type of movie. This is another low budget indie film. Basically, it's this private investigator who gets tasked by a insurance agent to determine whether someone's death was an accident or suicide, or did they set it up? Were they even dead? Like, it's one of those, but then it's just kind of like, it's just really weird. It's very confusing. A lot of good ideas. Could have been much better than it was. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I would like. It's one of those movies where I would just say watch it if you're uncertain. It's only 80 minutes, so it's pretty quick. It's like an hour. Yeah, hour and 20 minutes. It wasn't bad. It just was definitely. I feel like they had a really good idea, and then at some point it just kind of got lost. But that is all I have.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
What do you got?
Cool.
Matthew,
what do you got, my friend?
Over some of these go a little further back, but we haven't done a good watch list in a little while. So
lay it on us.
This is an Indonesian movie I watched called Satan's Slaves. It's on Shudder. This was really good. Very scary. I enjoyed it very much. It's a mom, she dies, and then all the kids start seeing her ghost, and you find out that she's got a dark past. I don't want to give it away because it's definitely worth, like, there's some good reveals in it, but there's some serious, like, good. It's very much like a Japanese horror. It's very creepy. Moving on from that, we got where was I? Messiah of Evil. This is a 70s movie. I think it's Italian, but it's like American at the same time. This was a cool one.
Like tonight's topic movie.
Yeah. But this lady she's like a model, and she is staying at this place, which she soon realizes is a cult, and that goes batshit crazy. This was a really cool movie. I definitely recommend it. This is on Tubi. I think it's on Shudder. Definitely on Tubi. But this is a really like entertaining watch. I was surprised because sometimes those 70s movies, they're a little dry, but I think its Italian influence definitely picked it up and revved it up a little more. So that was cool. Another Shudder one that came in. This was kind of like an interesting one to be on Shudder. It's called Combat Shock. And this is a Vietnam veteran. It kind of reminded me of Eraserhead, where they're kind of living in like the slums. Him and his wife have this baby that's deformed, and it's just about his kind of spiral into complete madness. This was a pretty bleak watch. That's another.
Sounds all right.
Sounds on par with your tastes, my friend.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. I'm trying to skip over some of the stuff I had already talked about. Stop motion I watched, which we had a good talk about that. I did some rewatches. Invasion of the Body Snatchers after Donald Sutherland passed away.
Yep.
I did watch The Zone of Interest. Not really a horror movie, but also very good. Definitely recommend if you haven't seen it. That's on Max. I did watch The Devil's Bath.
I'd love to see The Zone of Interest. By the way, I haven't seen that yet.
You know what's nice? It's like an hour and a half.
That's refreshing.
It's not super long. What wasn't an hour and a half was The Devil's Bath. This was like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Ooh,
very
good.
slow burn, full horror. There's some really shocking sequences, like right off the rip, and some really like gruesome, uncomfortable, like kind of stuff. Not even like violence, but like kind of violence. But it was icky. So those are some of my most recent notable watches. And then I did Return of the Living Dead on the 3rd and Jaws on the 4th because I watch those on that day every year. Then we watch Cable Guy because that movie's hilarious.
Cable Guy.
And that's borderline horror too.
Yeah, that might as well be kind of a thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did my yearly rewatch of Jaws on the 4th of July. I just had it like on loop at my house.
Yeah.
My mom and dad ended up coming down for a cookout on the 4th of July, and I just had it on repeat. And it was funny because I was my dad at a certain point got sick of being outside and just like, I'm gonna go inside. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll go inside with you. And I was just like, I brought a beer inside with me, and I had Jaws on, and he was just like sitting on the couch watching it, and I was cleaning up the kitchen a little bit, like trying to put some stuff in the dishwasher, and I was just like quoting the movie on demand as I usually do every time I watch it. And I was just like, oh, Dad, I could watch this movie all day. I was like, I love this movie so much. And then I was just like talking and talking and talking. And like a couple minutes passed, and I was like, hey, Dad. And I just poked out, and he was just asleep on the couch. He just fell asleep watching Jaws. And I was like, are you dead? Are you alive? No, you're alive. You're just sleeping. I was like, okay, cool.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, it's one of my favorite things to do of the entire year is to watch Jaws.
Yes.
On the 4th of July.
I like
I watched. I had it loop. I mean, I didn't watch it like 4 times.
No, but you could.
But I replayed it like 4 times, so it was just always on whenever you went in the house. It was on.
You're like TBS with
Christmas Story. Christmas Story. Yeah.
My go-to bar in Fairhaven is called the Bitter End, and they play Jaws. That's all about. It's like a fisherman's bar, kind of. That seems to be their theme. But they play Jaws on a loop 24/7. Like it's always on.
Could you imagine working there though?
What?
Seeing it like if you work there and they're just constantly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not on every TV; it's just on one. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's dope. Love it. Absolutely love it. All right, gentlemen. Anything else we want to touch on before?
That's all you watched was Jaws.
Just Jaws. I mean, honestly, what else did I watch?
You already seen that.
I started watching House of the Dragon, the new Game of Thrones show. I'm not going to talk about non-horror stuff like Kat usually did. I just haven't watched a lot of horror over the last couple of weeks. It's been a crazy couple of weeks with the 4th of July and everything. So I've been fair. And I actually I created my 2024 watch list on Letterboxd, and I realized how far behind I am on new releases this year. So I really need to fucking get my my dick in the dirt with some new horror releases this year. So I suck right now, but yeah, Jaws. I can talk about Jaws. Talk about Jaws.
I can always count on you to talk about Jaws.
Correct. Gentlemen, anything else, or we want to move on to tonight's movie film du jour?
Our big meal.
Our big meal. All right, ready?
Delicious.
Okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, why don't we take a quick little pause here from a word from our sponsors? We'll be back. We'll be right back. If I can only speak English, we'll be right back.
It's official. The critics' decision is in.
Spooky World is spooktacular.
Enter the new black hole.
If you dare.
Or the new horror House of Wax. This year, don't miss the real Jason, Bobby Pickett, or Alice Cooper. Phone the 24-hour Spooky World hotline. 508-838-0200. That's 508-838-0200. Spooky World is just west of Boston and haunts every night from October 1st till November 1st. If you had the nerve, you'd phone 508-838-0200.
It's America's horror theme park. Spooky World.
Sleepy Clovers! Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
The new face of evil is going to scare you to death. Barrett's Haunted Mansion. It's killer this year. Then right next door to the Abington Ale House. Mansion. Eat, drink, and be scary. Go to bhmansion.com.
All right, and we're back, which means that we are talking about tonight's movie film du jour. I don't know why I keep saying that tonight, but I am. That's a thing.
I like how you're saying du jour too.
Movie film is from Borat.
Du jour.
Du jour. I'm combining Borat and Dumb and Dumber, as a dumb person would do. Okay.
Interesting. I like it.
Tonight's film
Yeah.
is Cannibal Holocaust from the year of our Lord 1980. Yes. And if you have not heard of Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Holocaust is a 1980 Italian cannibal film. I would also call it a found footage film, directed by Ruggero Deodato, Deodato would be the American pronunciation. But in the things that I've watched since, it's pronounced Deodato in Italian. And written by Gianfranco Cliseri. Again, if I'm fucking up names, just fucking get over it.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure you fucked up that name.
Yeah.
It sounded like a fuck up.
Gianfranco Clarisi. That's Gianfranco Clarisi. I'm Irish. I'm not Italian at all. So fucking fuck you. Okay? How about that? This movie stars Robert Kerman as Harold Monroe, an anthropologist who leads a rescue team into the Amazon rainforest to locate a crew of filmmakers that have gone missing while filming a documentary on local cannibal tribes. It also stars Carl Gabriel York as Alan, Luca Giorgio Barbareschi as Mark, and Francesca Ciardi as Faye, along with Perry Perkinen as Jack. Now, Ruggero Deodato has claimed that Cannibal Holocaust has grossed as much as $200 million worldwide in the wake of its various re-releases. And I highlight re-releases there because in the 10 days between its release and its banning in Italy, the film grossed approximately $1.9 million, which would be $5.2 million in current day dollars. Because of its infamy and several subsequent re-releases, some claim the film has grossed over $200 million worldwide, not adjusted for inflation. So, although it's not really known how much money this movie has actually made, which again, just a fact, not an indication of quality. This movie currently is available to stream, of all places, on the worst streaming service out there, Peacock.
It's also on Shudder.
Is it on Shudder?
I watched it on Shudder.
Oh, I didn't realize it was on Shudder.
I think there's is it a Joe Bob Brigg thing? Or
No,
can you just watch
it wasn't. I watched it on Shudder. It was just the regular version.
Okay.
Because I remember you telling me, I just typed into my Amazon. You're like, oh, it's on Max. And I just typed it in. I was like, it's not. It must have just got on Shudder. It has to be like very recent.
Speaking of Shudder, in preparation for this episode, after watching the movie, I did also watch an episode of Shudder's excellent Cursed Films series that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
They do a really good episode on Cannibal Holocaust. And obviously that show in general is fantastic. I love that show. It's a really good deep dive into some of the quote unquote, most cursed films, whatever. If they're cursed or not, that's up to you. But it does give very good insight into some of these older movies that are, considered to be cursed films. And the Cannibal Holocaust episode did not disappoint. They interview Ruggero Deodato along with a few of the stars of the film, along with a lot of Italian movie critics, and it's very good. I'd recommend you check it out if you're a fan of this movie. If you've recently seen this movie, check it out for sure. That's Cannibal Holocaust in a nutshell. This was very clearly and no fucking doubt about it, an upper decker shot to the moon, a pic of Matthew Audette. Matthew, why don't you talk to us and kick us off?
Explain yourself.
Explain yourself a little bit about Cannibal Holocaust, Monfrere.
Okay. So
I'm really excited to hear this.
This is a rough movie to watch. I know that. But it has a special place in my heart. And there's a reason. I'm going to tell you the story. So when I was probably 15, 16 years old, my buddy and I were getting into like a lot of more extreme horror movies. Actually, believe it or not, this was coming off of like the Rob Zombie stuff. House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, his Halloween movies. They were some of the most violent movies we had seen so far at that age. And so we were looking for some more stuff. So I remember one day we were at Newbury Comics at the Kingston Mall, and we were just looking through the horror section, and we were like, let's just find something that sounds extreme.
Still there, by the way. Newbury
It is.
Comics.
They don't sell movies anymore, but
Still go there regularly. Love that place.
But they so we're looking through the movies, and we are perusing the titles, and we both kind of come across Cannibal Holocaust, and we're like, that sounds extreme. So we pull the DVD out of the shelf, and we look at it. It's got all these things, warning, banned in however many countries, the most controversial film ever made, like 17 plus, like all these things on it. So we're like, all right, cool. Like, let's check this out. So we buy it. We go back to my house. We put it in. We watch the whole movie. He's like, all right, well, that was fucked. And we gave each other a dap. And he was like, all right, well, I'm going to go home.
I'm going to slink off into the night. Goodbye.
Yeah. So that was the first time, but I've probably seen this movie a dozen times since then. It's probably a yearly rewatch for me. I own it. The DVD has been
maniac.
the DVD has been donated now to my brother-in-law. I gave him all my horror DVDs because he's a horror fan, and he likes extreme horror. And his older stepdaughter is becoming a horror fan. So I was like, you know what? Hang on to these when she gets older. He's got some good stuff in there. But that was one of the DVDs, and I told him specifically, I was like, this and like Last House on the Left, you're going to want to keep like top shelf for now, because those are extreme. But
yeah.
So now I own a sweet restoration Blu-ray, which the fortunate thing about it is it offers you the option to cut out the animal violence if you when you rewatch it, which they have a cool disclaimer at the front that says, like, we do not condone any of the things that happen in this movie, but we do appreciate the right to free speech and this, that, and the other thing. Therefore, we do not believe in censorship. So
free speech and free
carnage.
The version without the animal mutilation must be like 30 minutes less.
I'm not sure how much.
Low is like 5 minutes.
I'm not sure off the top of my head how much less it is. But yeah. But
continue, Matt. Sorry.
So to me, this was like the first movie I saw that was like really, really extreme, and this obviously kind of opened that gateway for me with that kind of stuff. And seeing it when I was like only like 15, 16 years old, you know what I mean? So that's why now I'm like, I watch things and I'm able to kind of handle it considerably better than the majority of movie watchers. But
sure.
The thing about this movie is, so it holds that special place for me, but it's also, to me, it's the godfather of found footage films. It's one of the most important horror movies, in my opinion, ever made.
Andrew, by the way, stroking his chin like the Godfather as you said that. I know you can't see, but yeah.
I think it really is super important to have a movie that is that brutal and that fucked up and as crazy as it is, and all the stories and rumors that came with it and everything. I just think that kind of thing is super fascinating as well. So here we are. I've been teasing bringing this one to the show for a little while. So now I think I was like, you know what, let's just get it over with. For you guys' sake, we'll get it over with. I can't imagine it was an enjoyable watch. Yeah. But there are some redeeming qualities to this movie, let alone some of the abhorrent violence you do have to sit through. That being its soundtrack, its effects, the storyline itself is actually really interesting and actually kind of relevant. And this, that, and the other thing, amongst which we'll probably get into. But yeah, no, this movie is just fucking, it is a fucking juggernaut of a horror film. And we got to do it. We have to.
So I think that there's been a lot of movies in the show that we've covered, right? That I've said, which is my coded way of saying that it's not for me, but every horror fan should see this particular movie at least one time.
Mm-hmm.
Cannibal Holocaust is one of those films. I can certainly appreciate this movie's importance with regard to one of, if not my favorite, subgenre of horror. I am a found footage apologist. And I am fully aware that without Cannibal Holocaust, there is no Blair Witch Project, which is one of my favorite movies. There is no Paranormal Activity. There's no Wreck. There's no District 9. There's no
Frogman.
No Outwaters. No Frogman, which I still haven't seen yet. There's no Lake Mungo. There is no VHS franchise. I get all of that. I really do. And we were going to record last night, and I feel like I needed a day to decompress,
decompose,
and have some of my venom recede. Okay. This movie fills me with spluttering indignation. I got zero enjoyment out of it, just like I did the first time I saw it when I was in college. I fucking hate this movie. I hate it like poison. I despise it. And I'm really trying to I'm trying to be kind to certain aspects of the film, because I really feel like the story itself is very cool. And the way that it was marketed, very cool. But I find the actions that are on the actual film, in the film itself, to be deplorable.
I knew you were going to use that word. I love that you did.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I just do. And you know what?
No, don't apologize.
Me.
I didn't pick it because I think you were going to like it. I picked it because I just felt like we had to talk about it.
You know what? It's just not for me. It's just not for me.
Of course. It's not for a lot of people, man.
Yeah, I understand like the cultural significance of this film, and it arguably is the most viral film of all time, the biggest cult film of all time, right? Because the reputation of this film precedes itself. I feel like everybody has heard of this movie, but I just like the animal violence for me is just too much. I understand that people could throw at you like, okay, I've heard the arguments. Yep. Okay. You could say the same thing about Francis Ford Coppola with Apocalypse Now and the water buffalo scene, but he gets a pass because it's a classic or an art film or whatever. This gets a bad rap because it's an exploitative film.
Mm-hmm.
Bull fucking shit. The way the animals are killed on screen in this movie, and I get that they were eaten by the tribes that were in this movie, is despicable, deplorable, horrifying, and not something that I ever want to ever watch again. And I watched for this podcast, and I find it to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I find it to be horrifically sad. And something like that happening for quote unquote art, I find I have no tolerance for it. I sound like I'm a pearl clutching bitch right now. I really feel like when I'm saying this,
you're in the majority, dude.
It doesn't do it for me. But I also think that having watched some of the behind the scenes stuff because I want to do my research for this movie, right? I want to do my due diligence as I usually want to do for these podcasts. Sounds like Ruggero Deodato is a real piece of shit. And that's also something you could say about Billy Friedkin on the set of The Exorcist. You could say it about probably countless other directors. Francis Ford Coppola with Apocalypse Now, which I mentioned before. I get all that. This movie I combined with the fact that I got nothing out of it. I find zero enjoyment out of people getting castrated, gang rapes, lots of violence, all that type of stuff. It just does not do it for me. So this is not really the type of movie for me.
So you're not like one of the villains from like Death Wish?
No. So I feel like this is probably, now that we've passed Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, we've already covered that episode. This is now the movie that I have vehemently hated the most in the entire history of the podcast that we've done. I hate this movie, and I have zero interest in watching it again. But go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
I was going to say, no, when I knew that there was going to be movies I was going to pick when I was saying I'm going to start picking some brutal stuff. And this is the kind I needed to hear these kind of things. I wanted these reactions. I wanted to hear these real life, because it's like
I could blow smoke up your ass and tell you that I thought it was really cool for the effects and everything. But no, I'm sorry. I fucking hate this movie. I really do.
Don't apologize. The and like I'm
like
not
I said,
going to sit
I
here.
I do love found footage, and like the setup for the movie is really cool. I just like I find the behind the scenes stuff to be despicable, and
Yeah,
you watch the
that's
Shutter
yeah.
behind the scenes, the Shutter Curse Films thing. Some of the stuff that is described by the actors in the movie about the rape stuff seems really off. It's just fucking really weird. It seems like and Ruggero Deodato apparently has gone on record saying like not a lot of that, the animal killing stuff or the rape stuff was written into the script and the actors have said otherwise. So it's just like, it's one of those things where it's just like, it just makes me feel gross. And I find on a more comedic level here, Matthew, the fact that you watch this once a year, I find it to be fucking absolutely outrageous. Insane. You are a maniac, my friend. I love you for it.
We
You
had
are a
an
maniac.
over under on whether or not you watch this more than 2.5 times a year.
No, usually just once. But
yeah, that's under. Yeah, that seems about right.
Fair.
The thing with this movie, and like, don't get me wrong, like I'm not sitting there like rooting for any of these kinds of awful things, but
I know you're not.
There's something about, and I've spoken about this before, when it comes to watching things like this, there's something about sometimes you just need to be put into something awful. At least that's how I feel. Sometimes you just have to see things that aren't completely. Sorry, my dog's drinking water right next to me.
I thought you were masturbating.
Two hands up here.
I can see Matt's hands. He's not, in fact, masturbating.
I was like, damn, that's loud.
Andrew was hoping.
But the thing about it is that it's important to kind of.
Yeah, he's really drinking.
Yeah, hold on. Let me wait till he's
No, it's cool. It's cool.
Okay.
Let him drink some water, dude. It's hot out there today, so
he might take a minute. So. He's also got big old jowls.
Shaun, I'll leave this in, by the way.
That's all I can
There you go.
It's just that,
go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
You all done, buddy? I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? It's like so it's important, I think, for me. I need to subject myself to things like that. I don't know if I've gone through things in my life that are hard. So that I don't know if it's kind of a way, it's like a catharsis sort of like kind of putting yourself into those like disparity moments and stuff like that. But there's something like after I watch it, don't get me wrong, like I'm not like, all right, cool. Like I always feel shitty watching the movie, but it's just like, it's like a necessary evil.
I get that.
Yeah.
And like, it's like what every horror movie is fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? Just certain ones are worse than other ones. And don't get me wrong, like the stuff that happens in this movie is deplorable. It's horrible. And this is always up there when you look at lists of like what are the most disturbing. It's Sallow, 120 Days of Sodom, and like a Serbian film. Those are like always like within the top 3. Like Human Centipede might pop up here and there, but this movie, there's something about it that I find to actually be very frightening and scary, and I think that's why it becomes something that I do seek to watch here and there, because it is it's scary, but I also enjoy the way it's made.
To pause you real quick, I also found it. I find it to be a very scary movie. I didn't mention that before, but I agree with you. Yeah, it's horrifying. Yeah.
I want to cover my name because I know I've talked about it before, and I've obviously picked some really grimy fucking movies. But again, as a horror fan, you got to kind of, not everyone, but like certain, like for me at least, it's like you kind of need to see as much as you can. And it's also like people kind of think of it as an endurance test too. And especially when I was younger, like I think if I had saw this for the first time at my age now, I probably wouldn't like it at all. But I think where it was such a like monumental movie for me to watch at such an impressionable age, it just kind of stuck with me. I'm like, I can never let that movie go. It's important to me. I think it shaped the way I view horror films and the way I appreciate horror films and the way I can appreciate trauma and any sort of things like that and going through things. And I do think it's important to expose yourself to awful things, because if you just kind of go around thinking everything's fine all the time, which it could very well be, that's fine. But if something bad happens to you, you're going to be so incredibly devastated, and you're not going to know. Yeah, and you're not going to know what to do, and those emotions are going to destroy you. And like, hopefully not, but like, some people have good ways and healthy ways of doing things. And if an outlet is to just watch a terrible movie, then I don't think I'm doing that fucking bad. But the this movie just has it hits on a lot of levels, and for sure it's got a lot of stuff in it that's really fucked up that we'll go into. But
Yeah.
it's that like fucking, it's like the King Kong of fucking just gigantic, monstrously disturbing movies. So
Oh, for sure. For sure. All right. And I can appreciate everything that you said there.
Thank you.
I understand it. I really do.
I knew you were going to hate this movie, Mike, and I'm sorry that you had to watch it.
No. Listen, you don't need to apologize for anything. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm just saying, I'm just giving you my objective opinion here. It's just not for me. I understand there are like, I wasn't like, I don't know. Andrew, what did you think of this movie?
What did I think of this movie?
Yeah. Cannibal Holocaust.
So Matt asked me, he goes, "How you know if you've seen this movie?" And I clearly forgot that I had seen this movie. I don't know how that's even possible, because it makes zero sense.
Seriously,
but it dawned on me as soon as the intro music started playing, like that weird upbeat fucking music, planes flying over the fucking green inferno. It just kind of like, I was like, oh, I've seen this, and I knew exactly what it was. But I'm pretty sure that I think I saw it like when Netflix like mail in Netflix, like you can mail you movies.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure, and it was like
that was when I
and
saw
it was,
it
and I think
time.
I was like 15 or 16 when I watched it too, and I remembered most of it, and it was like every part that happened, I was like, oh, I remember this, and I remember it being a lot less like jarring when I was that age than I did now. A lot of it now, I was just like, the fuck am I watching? Like, why am I watching this? Why am I subjecting myself to this? Because I've seen it, and like it doesn't, like, the shock value is not even there anymore, because I already, like, I've seen it, so I know, yeah, they're gonna kill some animals. Yeah, there's gonna be some disgusting, horrific rape scenes and some pretty cool fucking practical effects. And like the fact that you're able to create a movie and have people and get arrested because they think you actually killed the actors is pretty fucking impressive. Like, props to you. Like, that gives this movie an A+.
Yeah.
But also,
that's that legendary status that it holds.
But also, fuck this movie. I fucking hate this movie. But I appreciate this movie for what it is. I also, like you, Matt, do feel that it is important to watch movies that generally fuck your face and your head up,
or even like read books. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as long as you're exposing yourself,
you need to subject yourself to uncomfortable pain, because it helps you with real pain when that comes along, like you said.
Yeah.
So I think it is very therapeutic in that way, because it's like, we talk about this. I feel like we've talked about this a lot lately, because this year you've basically been picking movies that are like, okay. But there is like, I don't know if it's like an adrenaline shot that you get from watching it. Like at the end, like, yes, I'm very upset and I didn't like what I just saw, but there's something to that, because I find myself with such an urge to counteract that feeling with something happy or nostalgic or something that it's like my binky that I need. So I think that watching a movie that puts you in that frame of mind that I need my binky is a good movie. I like movies like that.
Right. But like, you could be having a terrible day and like terrible things could be happening, and you put yourself through something like this, or any movie that's like really like a lot. Like there's other like Lars von Trier movies. I know we did House that Jack built, but like Antichrist is another one that's like really, really fucking rough, dude. And it's like you put yourself through that, and then you kind of are able to put your perspective and shift it, and you kind of think about what you have and what what you might be going through, and you're able to kind of reassess how you're thinking about how you felt before you watched the movie and then afterwards. At least that's how everybody's different. Everyone thinks differently, but that's always how it kind of goes for me. And it's like I never like anytime I watch this movie, I'm never like, okay, like today's the day. Like, you know what I mean? There's been a couple of years where it's like it's the day that it gets released, and I'm like, all right, I'll watch that today. But like for the most part, I'm just like it's like I'm like, ugh, like it was a miserable day. I'm in a bad mood. I'm like angry about something maybe, or like trying to work through something, and I just need to I kind of need to see an angry movie. And this is a fucking angry movie. And at that
Very
point,
much
that's
so.
you know what I mean. So that's kind of where I'm at, like in terms of my rewatches, and just to you know what I mean. I don't condone anything that happens in this movie. It's fucking misery. But at the same time, what horror movie can you watch and you can say, yeah, this kicks ass? Sure, slashers are fun, but it's not cool to fucking kill a bunch of babysitters. You know what I mean? So it's like it's all different perspectives of how you look at different horror movies. But this is extreme. This will probably be the most extreme movie I'm gonna throw on here this year.
Irrational fear from this movie. I will never fly to anywhere in South America in the fear that perhaps my plane will go down in the Amazon and I will be eaten by cannibals, because that is like up there. Like I always say, like the worst way to die would be to be eaten alive by like a crocodile or a
shark.
lion. But a person, then there's way worse.
By multiple people.
Multiple people
Yeah.
who just chop off your dinky and then just start eating you. Like,
Or to be impaled on a pole. That's also going to be up there. It's going to be have it come through your rear parts and out your mouth.
that's
to be impaled on a pole.
that's an image that is one of the best. Like, well done on that.
So one of the rumors that they had with that scene is that when in court, that was one of the people they were like, that there's no way that person's alive.
Yeah.
Like that's real. And what they did was they sat that girl on like a bike seat and she held the
Saw this.
pole like in her mouth.
Yeah.
And I think she had to like prove that in court. And from what I understand, she did, or if that's the rumor, you know what I mean? So that's the other thing. That's kind of another thing that kind of makes this movie a little more bedazzling, is that it has all these like fucking crazy things about it. So it's like you're like, oh, we got to go check this out and see what it's all about. The violence is very real. The animal violence obviously is real. Fortunately, like I said, when I watch it now, I have the option to skip that, so I do.
Yeah.
I don't have to watch that again.
It's just it's not a net
plot.
benefit
It doesn't
whenever you
help
watch it.
at
It's
all.
just I feel like it's just mean spirited.
Like the muskrat
Yeah.
kill, it's like so
Terrible.
I'm like, it's a little muskrat, but it still makes me so sad.
the sounds.
It's just awful.
Nightmare.
The sounds.
And they like it. You had brought up Mike. He backs it up with saying like, well, you know what? They were going to do this anyway, and this is what they do when they eat these animals. And it's like, okay, but then he counters it, and he's like, but also like now all my human deaths seem just as real.
Yeah.
So in
And
terms of
also,
filmmaking,
like,
it's like, all right, I guess you kind of have a point, but it's like you could have just done the
most fucked
effects
up thing.
anyway.
But also, in that point in time, though, nobody cared about animals.
No,
That's
they didn't,
true.
and especially Italian movies, like especially like
Not even Italian movies. What is that? Milo and
There was
Otis.
that time period, and that over there across the ocean, they did a lot of that kind of stuff, and like they got away with it. So.
Well, let's not beat around the bush here, right? Because there's a lot of animal violence in this movie, and fuck, I completely forgot what I was going to say. I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? Oh my god, it'd be nice to not be an idiot.
You reading from a book over here?
No.
No.
Fuck, what was I going to say? I don't know. I lost my train of thought, but I was going to say, the animal stuff sucks very clearly, and it's just not fun. I know what I was going to say. So I was going to say that I get, yes, okay. So if those animals were in fact consumed by tribes, and if the monkey brains that they actually ate
they drank that
by decapitating these monkeys, sure. If they consider monkey brains to be a delicacy, I understand that. I get it. I understand that there are thousands, if not millions, of animals that are killed every day for us to be able to eat as a society: chicken, beef, pork. I get all of that. there's a more humane way to kill those animals than what they showed in this movie. It just seemed very mean-spirited. It was very slow and drawn out. It was just, you felt
shock value.
everything. Yeah, it was
different than like
gross.
trapping animals with like bear traps and shit like that. That's fucked up.
No, and like, listen, I understand that people do horrendous things to animals,
to people,
and people. I get that. Like, listen, we're talking about we do a podcast, okay, about where
we're getting existential
horror movies where people are killed all the time, and we talk about it in a joking and laughing way.
But you kill an animal.
I get it. I get the hypocrisy, okay? But when a real animal is really killed in a really slow and methodical way, I find that to be deplorable. It sucks. It's really disturbing, and I found it to be really
well.
disturbing.
Also, none of them were slow and methodical. When they killed the turtle, they cut off its head first. It was dead. That was just its reflexes. It wasn't alive at that point.
I would argue that none of the animal deaths in this film were the most humane.
None of them were. I'm not trying to defend it, but I'm just saying, most cases, the head was the first thing to go. Right?
Sure. That turtle scene.
The muskrat was rude.
The muskrat and the turtle scenes were, and the
the turtle scene was disgusting because watching it just be like disemboweled, they were definitely eating that turtle, and I was like, I've never looked at a meat being cooked and eaten in a more. I was like, that looks so. I would never eat a turtle. Turtle sound. I can't even imagine what that tastes like. Ugh.
Yeah,
throw up.
Probably chicken.
I mean, there's just a
like turtle soup.
I am a believer in respecting the earth and respecting your fellow animal, your fellow human. And there is just, it did not seem like any of those animals went quietly into that gentle night. They all died screaming. It was awful to see. It was terrible.
Yeah, most things die screaming.
Yeah, agreed. And I understand. Yes. I eat cheeseburgers. I eat chicken. I eat pork.
And those are
I eat everything.
all killed inhumanely.
I understand. I get it. I understand. That does not mean that I want to see it when it's happening. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. Yep, I want to eat a cheeseburger, but I do not want to see, Bessie get fucking slaughtered.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. His name isn't Bessie. His name is Cow 7. It's just.
Yeah, no, I know. It was
just a barcode.
Yeah, it was a hypothetical thing. Yeah, a barcode.
It's okay, Mike. You can be sensitive.
No, I know. I'm
gonna eat your dog later.
No, well, you can eat my dog later. He's a fucking pain in the ass anyway. Otis the hound dog, at the spooky hound dog. Find him.
So,
go ahead.
I want to say there's a few other things because we spent a little bit of time on that whole fraction of what's displayed in the movie, but I do want to say there's other things that happen in this movie that are fucking pretty rough.
Ooh, I have some thoughts on these as well. Yeah, go ahead.
So, the thing that's crazy to me, and this is another thing I think that kind of like fascinated me as well, and this happened with my first watch, was that you have all these images with this like strangely gentle soundtrack behind it. And it was there's a very big juxtaposition until like the turtle scene has that in my opinion, it's one of the best horror soundtrack things that's ever
Halloween
happened.
Music.
Which this was the one that they used in Baskin, where you have that like bee bee bee, like bee bee bee, like this like weird like just like
very
dream
tonal,
like it's very it's like almost like a subconscious thing. But it's just the even like the opening track is like beautiful. You're like flying over the rainforest and everything, and it's just so strange that such a horrifically violent movie could have such a well done and tight like soundtrack to it. Like it's just it's that I always was like it, like I think it kind of makes it a little more unsettling. But you have these scenes, you have the girl that gets impaled, she's sitting on the post, they find her. You have the corpse that's still breathing that they find that's just rotting away. You have the adultery punishment.
Yeah, that's
like
awful.
There's two halves to this movie. You have when the guy goes down to find them, and they only find the footage. So you see the things he sees, which he sees the adultery punishment, he sees the ritual of eating all the intestines and the heart and everything, and he's forced to eat it, and he does. And And then you have when they actually go back and watch the footage. And so basically, like, what we didn't get into is what this movie's actually about. So they come back, and this, like, basically we'll call it NBC just for like a lack of whatever the fuck broadcast system it was.
For argument's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, just, you know what I mean? It was like a regular mainstream broadcast. And they were like, well, we want to show that footage blindly. And this guy's like, you guys are out of your fucking minds, because what I saw down there is the most horrific thing that's ever been on TV since Vietnam. And they're like, they kind of argue about it. And he's like, why don't we watch it? And then we can decide if we want to put that on TV. This is where the movie actually takes off, in my opinion. And this is where you get this kind of confrontation of human nature versus, it's like a banality of good and evil, and they kind of just become one. And it's these, both sides between the tribe and the people filming become mob mentality personified, and you're seeing it where they are witnessing all the awful acts that the tribes do, all these things where they are doing, like, you before that scene, like I said, you have the adultery act, which is a basically impaled penetration with like a stone, and then he buries her alive, kind of. And then you have like but when you get to where they're at, there's like the forced abortion where they bury the fetus afterwards. And then the impaling, which they see. But then they go in and like burn down their like huts and stuff. And they're like raping all their women. And like, it just, you're kind of like, you get so confused because you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are they doing like it? You know what I mean? So it kind of just becomes this one, like, just gigantic, like they're just becoming one with this like animalistic thing. And it's just, it swallows every person in the movie. Literally.
It's almost as if Deodato is comparing the audience's lust for violence to cannibalistic intentions, along with violence and rape. And it's a very apt comparison. That is one thing I will say in favor of this movie.
Yeah. Though he's got a lot to say.
They're comparing it to the colonization of America, and this is how we
Also
treated. Because when the guy says at the end of the movie, "Who are the real savages?"
Exactly. Yeah.
We are the savage. They were just as savage.
Yeah.
They were actually
Yeah.
more savage because they weren't doing it for food or survival. They were doing it for
entertainment.
They were doing it for clicks and TikTok videos and all that dumb shit.
This movie speaks to
This movie
society
and it
today.
also
Yeah.
it survives the test of time. It is relevant in any generation.
The lengths that people will go to entertain
Yeah.
and get views and become famous, the lure of that is always going to be present.
So what you're saying, Mike, is this is a very timely piece, very important movie that should be seen by everybody.
I will say it is essentially, if you think about the message this film is sending, it is kind of timeless.
It is.
Yeah,
Now.
that's what I was saying earlier. Like,
Yeah,
it's relevant to like what we see today, and like that's why I was saying that's where the film really kind of grabs onto its message. Which there is a message in the movie, and it's like, you know what, dude? It's A, live and let live. B, human nature is at the very forefront, extremely violent. And the other thing is that you're going to have these people that are going to want to try and people will do anything if it means that their name's going to be spoken out loud, even if it means doing something fucking horrible. And that obviously that's, you know, subjective, because me and you and, you know, we're not going to go and do something like that. But it's just like these people are willing to do that.
Won't we?
But you have all that stuff happen, and then you have what I think is, and it's funny because when you end the movie, when everyone get swarmed and they get attacked and they get ripped apart and eaten, you're not sure who you're rooting for.
Yeah.
Oh, at that point, I'm on board with the cannibals.
But literally, you're like, dude, these people came in and fucked your shit up, and now all they're doing is, you know, protecting themselves. They're like, who are these people? What are these machines that they're holding?
They're doing what they know how to do in their way of life. And these people
so
came in and
it's a
disrupted
very.
that.
I think what's wild about it is the fact that these tribes still exist in this point. Like that is so wild to think of.
Well, this was 1980.
No, I know, but I'm saying today these tribes still exist.
Is that actually a thing?
I'm
Is that
pretty sure. I don't think they've.
Can you cite
They're
your
like
source?
untouched.
Cite your source.
I just the medicine man. No, I don't know. I'm like that was like the 90s, but no, I bet you that there are still tribes throughout the world that are untouched, and if they have been touched, they probably fucked the shit up. Like Papua New Guinea, all those like types of islands out there where there's plenty of cannibals. Like there's people that have no interest in acting the way that we do, and I don't blame them.
Well, you do a deep enough dive on TikTok, you can find some potentially stories about that, which I don't know if they're true or not, but I don't know. You never know.
Oh, I guarantee
that's
you there are
saying,
tribes still like that.
You get through the end of the movie, and it does have something to say. As much as you have to kind of sit through all the support and violence, it's as in your face as in your face can fucking be. But it delivers that message, and that's always what I've gotten from it is like, who even is the fucking bad guy? You know what I mean? Like, and it's the destruction of rainforests. It's encroaching on people who have claimed land first. It's aggressing on sexual violence on territory and like things like that. You know what I mean? So it's there's so many things that it has to say, and it's just like, yeah, okay, you got your message across. Dude. Like, people are fucking brutal.
I feel like I should also say too, because obviously the animal violence is like the big thing that people take away from this because it actually happened, right? The rest of the movie was fictional.
I will say
there are several things in this movie that are deplorable that probably happen to women, to different races. Andrew, you talked about colonialism being a thing for this movie. Absolutely. I feel like it's the subject matter of this movie. And again, it's a movie, so I'm not necessarily knocking the film itself for this, but like that stuff is deplorable.
But those things happen to people, and
they happen to people. They happen to people. Yeah. So yes, some animals died making this movie. That is awful. I'm not taking away from that. But these things also happen.
Those animals also would have been dead 30 years ago,
probably,
because they lived to like a year old.
So you need to
not
like
tortoises though.
And that's like I feel like that's like a. I hate talking about this because it sounds so fucking stupid, but like that's like a privilege thing, right? Like when you think about animals first.
When you complain about animals dying,
the things
you're not the person I really want to like. If that's your biggest beef is like animals dying, I don't have any interest in you because you're not a real person.
There's a story.
People die every day and no one gives a fuck.
There's a story I'll never forget. If any of you or any listener has read anything that Anthony Bourdain has written, he came back from Beirut, and at the time he was there filming a TV show. Beirut got bombed. It was a huge thing. He made it out. But he tells a story in his second book. What's it called? Not Kitchen Confidential, the other one. I'll think of it. But anyway,
Parts Unknown?
No, not Parts Unknown was his TV show. This was, I'll think of it. But anyway, he tells a story about how he got an email after he came back from Beirut about this vegetarian that wrote him an email asking him to advocate for the shelters of Denver, Colorado, or some bullshit, something like that. And he just wrote back this blistering email being like, pretty much, hey, I just came back from Beirut where people's lives were bombed back to the Stone Age. Do you think that maybe when all these people were killed, that maybe some doggies were killed too? Do you think that maybe in third world countries where people are treated like garbage, that maybe animals are also treated worse? Like that type of thing. So you need to, I love animals as much as the next guy. Don't get me wrong. It's important to put things into perspective too. Remember that people are also suffering. But it's also very easy to scapegoat this movie because the animal violence is so ever present. It's so gross.
It's so unnecessary. But also the thing that
Like,
Matt said though actually gives it relevance. It does actually. If I'm willing to do this to animals, why would I not be willing to do it to humans? And I get so from a artistic point of view,
and that's my point too.
It's fucked, but it's actually pretty pretty good idea.
There's a man that's tied up and castrated and eaten alive. There's a woman that's gang raped and killed.
But they aren't actually.
I understand that,
done.
but it's also terrible and not
You're like,
easy
you know what's
to
so
watch.
boring about this movie?
You know what I
They
mean?
killed a muskrat.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, I have seen people with rats and mice in their house, and you were trying to kill it. Like,
Right?
so
Like-
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
How
It's
dare
just-
you? Well,
it's-
I didn't catch it correctly and slit its throat.
Yeah.
Well, you would have if you were a
Listen,
psychopath.
I'm all for, like, if you have to kill an animal, kill it humanely. The least
If
painful
people have
way
skunks in the yard,
possible.
they call it
Yeah.
pest control. What do you think they do?
But listen,
Well, they re-release it
I
into the wild. No, they kill it.
I get the hypocrisy. I'm just, I don't have the answer personally. I'm just saying it's something to think about.
All I
So,
have to say
anyway.
is I disagree with killing animals, but also let's not get crazy. Sure.
I love a
And
very
I was right, by the way.
I love a smash burger as
last-
much as the next guy. So don't get me
The
wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
last cannibal tribe that still exists today
Yes.
is the Korowai tribe in Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
still because they believe that it was necessary to kill and eat a person they believe may have been taken over by a demon. So you have to kill it and then eat the demon.
Eat it. Eat the demon and it's gone.
Scrumdiddlyumptious.
Fair enough. Scrum Trelescent. Anywho,
Love some good cannibal talk.
where were we?
Yeah, Mike, what do you got on your little docket?
So I was gonna say,
What do you got on your little
on my little docket, as Matt would say. So I feel like the Ruggero Deodato arresting for murder thing is overblown. That never actually happened. So
He did get
basically,
arrested, but he never got.
he got
prosecuted.
arrested, but he was never charged with murder. Yeah. So this I
Murder.
got this from the Shudder Cursed Films episode that I watched, along with reading a little bit about it. But I guess so. 10 days after the movie's premiere in Milan, Italy, the film was in fact seized by Italian courts, and Deodato was arrested and charged with not murder, obscenity, which basically,
You're seen.
from what he said on that Shudder episode, is just basically offense to the public in Italy. It was an old,
But Mike, I feel like
An
if
old
you
thing.
were in that time,
yeah.
you would have been on board with that. You would have been like, "This is obscene."
I mean,
It is
potentially.
obscene.
Wouldn't
It is
you?
obscene.
It's
Wouldn't
obscene
you?
today.
I wouldn't have convicted someone for a movie.
Are you,
Well, if you
so
thought that they were killing people on screen,
are you painting me as the one,
No.
pearl clutcher of this entire argument here?
No, I'm saying that you found this movie so despicable.
I
deplorable,
did. Yes, I
disgusting,
did.
that you
But
would
I
you would
wouldn't.
be like, "This movie is obscene." Not that they killed people.
The guy didn't deserve to go to jail for making the movie.
No.
100%. Absolutely not. Like you
after
can do
proving
whatever
that he
you want.
didn't kill anybody, yeah.
I absolutely have the right to not watch it.
I think it's wild to watch a movie and be like, "You killed these people."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's realistic, but
If
is
this-
it that realistic?
If,
I mean,
if
it
he
actually-
made this movie
yeah.
in 2024, it would be said to be the most ingenious marketing campaign of a movie of all time. I
Well,
think.
because he kind of did that intentionally, right?
Even better than Blair Witch
He like
Project.
didn't
'cause
want
Blair
them
Witch
to.
did the
He
same
like
thing.
didn't want them to be there.
He made them sign an agreement
But they would never.
that for 1 year after the movie came out, they could not be in any movies and could not make any public appearances.
Which is wild, unless you're trying
Yeah.
to get people to think that you.
Which in
actually killed people.
1979, which is when this was filmed, that's insane. That's a
If-
really smart
if Oz
idea.
Perkins did that, they'd be like, "Wow,
Yeah.
good job."
Wow, we'd be like, Micah Monroe and Nicolas Cage are dead. Holy fucking shit. So, anyway, so yeah, he was never actually charged with murder. He was charged with obscenity. And I think I saw on the thing today that I watched, he got 4 months with probation. That was what he got.
He still did jail time though
Yep.
for making a movie. That's
Yep.
obscene.
Yep.
That's obscenity.
Well, that's
And,
how strict those movie laws were back then, especially overseas.
Yeah.
They still are kind of that tight too. Some places.
Speaking of pro clutching, by the way, various sources have claimed the film was banned in 50 countries. Italy banned it for 3 years, was not allowed a theatrical release in the United States for 5 years, and was seized at a 1993 Birmingham, England comic fair. Norway had it banned until 2003. Holy shit. You fucking pansies.
That's wild. And then they're like, "Oh, remember
Video
9/11?
nasty.
Mhm.
Oh,
Meanwhile, Japan coming in with the haymaker. The two highest grossing films in the year 1983, by the way, in Japan, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, number 1, Cannibal Holocaust, number 2.
Yeah, and then only a few years later, they came out with Guinea Pig, Flowers of Flesh and Blood.
Dude, Japan, not fucking around.
Well, like Matt said, like sometimes you got to experience some pain. Japan's experienced some pain, so they know.
Yep. Apparently, so Carl Gabriel York, who played what was his name? The main actor, the guy that was I forget his name.
I honestly don't know anybody's name in these movies. I feel like you never really hear him.
So the guy that actually had the girlfriend, who was played by Francesca Chiardi, that guy, said in a recent interview, 2005, that the Italian actress said that they should, in preparation for their love scene, should actually go have sex in the Amazon jungle to prepare for their scene. To which I would have said, "Oh, hell yeah."
Like, oh, I guess so. If you insist.
I wouldn't film anything in the Amazon. What are these people, insane?
So you wouldn't have sex with a hot Italian actress just because it was in the woods? I guess
in the woods,
in the Amazon jungle,
in the woods, or in a place with giant millipedes, centipedes, snakes, bugs, fucking cannibals. Like, no thanks.
They had their like little like tent thing that they
a tent. Bugs can get in those fire ants. Fucking what were those ants and those bullet ants?
Oh God, yeah.
No thanks.
All right, let's close the loop on the animal deaths shit here because I'm sick of talking about it. Let's just close the loop. So apparently,
I thought you were starting like a Mike's Foundation for animal deaths.
No, not advocating for that. In the script, apparently the character who killed the pig refused to do so, and the Italian actor Luca Barbareschi did it without any problems because he grew up on a farm and they killed pigs all the time. Even though the pig was very clearly not happy about it, kicking wildly.
Good joke.
Yep. Let's see.
I think it was very upset.
very, very upset.
That's all, folks. When he got fucking shot in the head.
That's all, folks. Apparently, that same actor, by the way, said it was incredibly difficult to continue with the scene while he heard the pig's agonizing squeals and he was unable to say his lines correctly. Also said that if he had known the animals were going to be killed during the filming, he would have not agreed to make the film. So, okay, there's one thing. The guy who played, I don't have the actor's name in front of me here. The blonde guy with the blonde hair and the blonde mustache. Yeah. Perkinen is his last name. So this guy has not acted, by the way, since this movie, apparently because of the turtle scene. Because I guess all he did was hold one of the turtle's limbs. He was an active, quote unquote, active participant during the turtle scene.
Didn't he dive in the water?
According to Ruggero Deodato, he cried after that scene and after the death of every animal. Spoke negatively about the scenes, especially the monkey and the turtle scenes, and described the last one as one of the worst experiences of his life. Okay, understood. Yep.
It's different if you're there and you have to.
You have to do it.
That sounds awful. I don't blame him a second.
Act while you kill this innocent animal. Yeah.
Disembowel this turtle. That was so gross.
Yeah. And apparently after the monkey scene, members of the cast and crew said that if another animal had been killed for another scene, they were going to drop out of filming and leave. So
they say that
Deodato had to say
that after the fact.
We're good. We're good.
They were like, after you pay me, I might drop out of the scene.
Yep.
So they're all a bunch of frauds too.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. It's a fraud. That's a fraud state.
It's probably
if there was one more scene where an animal got killed. Well, you did six other scenes.
Seven of them.
The fuck are you complaining?
There were 7 animals killed, but if 8 are killed, we're all done.
8's too much. 7, 8, 9, not happy.
By the way, the original title for this film would have been The Green Inferno, which obviously went on to be the title of a Eli Roth film. Green Inferno, a film I also hate. Matt?
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah, hate it.
I actually like the scene where they cut up the fat bastard. And
that's gross. I just find cannibal films to be gross.
Or that one.
The violence is so raw and
visceral. Crawling up the guy. That's fucked up scene too.
Yep. Anyone have an idea as to why the original title for Cannibal Holocaust was Green Inferno?
Because it's called the Green Inferno. The
That's-
Amazon.
That's right. That's right. Sorry. What an idiot.
When
When the hunt
Jesus Christ
is a moron.
What? Any idea?
Good Lord. Probably the most disturbing piece of information I read about this whole thing. So the young native girl that was quote unquote raped
Yeah.
in her scene, she was 14 at the time and
Jesus
apparently was
Christ.
not a willing participant in the scene. To which I say,
What does that mean?
that apparently
Not a
she
willing part. So she
did not want to do it. She was not actually
No one talks about that though.
raped. This was in the Shudder episode about Curse Films
really?
episode. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So she was obviously not actually sexually
Is
assaulted.
this the scene
or
where
raped.
like the is this the
Yeah.
fornication
they
or
they
some
they
adultery
made it
scene?
very much seem like she didn't know what was going on, and at the time she was just getting increasingly more and more scared and did not understand, and she was fucking 14.
That's fucking
Yeah.
that's
Awful.
That's offensive.
That is so again, to go in on what I was saying before, like the animal stuff sucks. That is the most offensive thing to me. Like that's
She ever like
gross.
press
It's
charges?
disgusting. She was from an indigenous tribe in the Amazon, so I don't think she ever found a lawyer to press charges, if I had to guess. No,
I
probably
think
not.
she's eaten any human beings since that happened.
Maybe she might have.
Maybe she
I
as
don't know.
revenge.
Matt, would you have eaten any human beings since then if you were her?
I mean, I imagine she had been eating human beings since she could eat
Yeah.
food.
Maybe humans taste great. I mean, I never know. Never tasted one. Not quite sure.
Kentucky Fried Michael.
Kentucky Fried Michael, Kentucky Fried Andrew, Kentucky Fried Matthew. KFM, KFA. We'll find out someday.
Sounds delicious.
Guys, we talked about this when we did Maniac a few weeks ago. 1980 in horror. You want to run through it again real quick? I know we already did this a couple weeks ago because Maniac was
A couple weeks ago. That was,
pretty
that was
recently. Yeah,
that was a few months ago.
a few months ago. All right, so Alligator, great movie.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Movie I had written down here. Directed by Ken Russell, starring William, I Won't Hurt You, and Drew Barrymore. It's called Altered.
May I William Hurt
May
You?
I William Hurt You? Altered States. Anyone?
Altered Beast.
Yes,
Remember that?
I like
movie?
that movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
The Changeling. Great movie.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
I just got my Arrow version. I think. it's
Oh
Arrow
yeah, I
version.
forgot. So
Right.
Andrew, anytime you want to chip in about your new
I'll chip in real
hobby.
quick. Shout out to Diabolic DVD.
Oh yeah,
I just bought 20 new movies
beautiful. Love it.
like a psychopath.
Andrew's spending all his money on gambling and diabolic DVDs. Christmas Evil also came out in 1980.
I
You ever
like
seen
that.
it?
I like that. Yeah.
Great movie.
City of the Living Dead,
Great
which
movie.
is a Lucio Fulci movie. Gentlemen, Friday the 13th.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Not Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, not the. That came out in 1980.
Damn.
He Knows You're Alone, also in 1980.
I've seen that.
Tom Hanks' first movie, I think.
I believe it is.
Wow.
A Dario Argento movie called Inferno. Matthew, I'm sure you've seen it.
Great movie.
Yep. Read. Macabre, which is a Lamberto Bava movie. A lot of Italian horror this year.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Maniac,
Fantastic.
also a movie we've covered in this podcast. Yep. Motel Hell.
I love that
Great movie. Fun one.
Good movie. Yep. Very good movie. Like that a lot. The Awakening.
I don't know that one.
That's such a generic name.
9. The Monster Club, starring Vincent
Oh,
Price.
that's an anthology. That's
anthology
very
movie.
good,
Yep,
yeah.
very good. Starring Vincent
Well,
Price.
I don't know if it's very good, but I like it.
I mean, it's Vincent Price. so
It's
it's very
Vincent Price.
Yes. Good.
Vincent Price. Good evening.
Gentlemen, New Year's Evil came out in 1980. Anyone?
Oh, it's
Bueller?
last one.
Mhm.
It's me, Vincent Price.
We also got Night of the Demon in 1980.
It's a Bigfoot movie, I think.
I believe it is.
I'll give you a big foot.
And to finish it off, Prom Night, Terror Train, Bueller.
No.
Oh, I've seen both of those. Yeah, both Jamie Lee Curtis movies too.
I thought that was one movie.
Jamie
I
Lee
was in
thought it
Curtis.
was called
both of
Prom
those
Night
in the
Terror
fog.
Train.
Prom Night.
It was like
and
I thought it was like a
Terror Train, I should
grindhouse
say.
movie.
And the cherry on the sundae, The Shining, obviously, 1980.
Isn't The
Right.
Fog 1980?
The Fog was 1980 something else, not this.
You must have been 81.
I think it was 81.
You're thinking
or
of the
82.
dog.
Yeah. But the dog says. The Fog is the Fog is 1980. What the fuck? How did I miss that? Oh, my goodness.
So she had Jamie Lee
Sleeping on the
Curtis
job.
in movies that year.
Jamie Lee, little scream queen.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Tell me lies, what?
That's what I have on Cannibal Holocaust. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on before we sign off and say adieu until our next episode, mon frères?
Thank you for being good sports.
I don't know why I'm speaking French.
I appreciate it. Well, it was a Frenchie film, right?
Which one?
Oh, I thought this took some Frenchie. Some Frenchie.
No, I was saying I was speaking French. That's why I said adieu.
Oh, you're a Frenchie.
Yes. Matt, obviously, dude, we're not all going to pick movies all the time that people like. So,
oh, dude,
yes.
no, you don't even have to.
I'm still going to take part in every conversation about every movie we talk about.
Also,
on this
Mike can
podcast.
grow up and deal with it. Oh, my little
fuck
puppy.
you!
Oh, my little
I believe you were the one that called this movie vile in the text message last night. Yeah. Don't pretend that you love this movie.
No, but I'm saying it's vile, but I'm not going to be like, oh.
Listen. I came out of the woodwork early this year saying I was going to pick brutal movies. I had to hold up to my my statement. So
you did as you need to.
I appreciate you sticking to your guns.
This will probably be the most brutal one that we do. And
I'd rather watch The House That Jack Built 5 times than watch this movie one more time. Honestly,
I'm gonna on my
House
next
That Jack Built. I really liked a lot. I really liked that movie. I did.
On my next pick, I'm gonna give you guys a break. I'm gonna pick something that's a little more fun.
Okay.
Well,
I like fun.
That'll be a few weeks away because we're not talking about that yet.
We got Long Legs coming up,
but
and I think it's a
Long Legs isn't coming up. Long Legs and
it's going to be before this potentially, and then
no, it's my pick after that.
Your pick. All right. So we'll figure it out. Why don't we let the element of surprise hang out with everybody?
I know what I'm picking. I just don't know how to say it.
It's fine.
Also on Netflix coming out this week, Bone Tomahawk.
Oh, dude, that was fucking. Dude, I would talk about that movie.
I was like, when I saw that coming on Netflix, I was like, we should talk about Bone Tomahawk.
That's an all-time kill right there. I think we talked about that in a kill draft one time. But anyway, I digress. Gentlemen and ladies in difference, thank you very much for tuning into another episode of America's Hometown Horror. My name is Mike. I appreciate you checking back in with us and dealing with our discussion of Cannibal Holocaust. Matthew, thank you for the pick.
You're
you
welcome.
Find us pretty much anywhere else you want to listen to us. Pretty much anywhere, I should say. Gentlemen, anything else to say before we sign off and say good evening?
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for listening.
Of course.
Enjoy Long Legs and you'll would have
Can't wait
enjoyed
for Long Legs. Can't wait for Maxine. And we'll talk to you next week. We love you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hey everyone, it's Mike from America's Hometown Horror, and I want to say thanks again for listening to another episode of our show. If you're interested in more local Plymouth podcasts, I'd highly recommend you check out the shows from our friends over on the Inebriart Podcast Network. In addition to America's Hometown Horror, you can find shows from Inebriart, The Old Colony Cast, Bar Talk, Theme Park Legends, and Retro Redoctopus, so head on over and give them a listen.